I am so sorry to bother you again here, guys, today, but I was, casually working on my fusion of Iron Brago when I was hit with this dose of reality, this Dungeon Divers event with this whopping milestone at 4,775 points to get 5 fragments. Is this insanely hard or what? Let's compare. So yeah, I took a screenshot of this, added it to my ever-growing bank of screenshots of this game because I basically track everything, and then of course I proceeded to upgrading my free-to-play fusion plan, or what I'm gonna say, the most accessible fragments first. There's also sort of like my version here of what I end up doing in the game, so I'll cover that here real quick, but we're gonna focus on this Dungeon Divers event, which we have a couple more days to do, but is it harder or is it easier? Is it on par than the previous ones? That is what I want to see here today with you guys. And so hopefully it's going to shed some light as to how you can better prepare for this next time. Because as I keep saying, they keep changing the milestone points. So if you think that something is going to be exactly the same next time and you're going to depend on that to make a move and to hopefully get your 100 fragments, you might get caught off guard and you might not be able to do this. Okay, so here's a quick picture of the previous ones from Elagaeus. We had 350 points and 3,000 points. All right, and now today we've got 1,225 points, a big jump already from 350 points, and then we have 4,775 points for the other 5. So right off the bat, this looks harder. It is, I think, in a sense, right? But we're going to break it down on a per day basis. Then let me go back to this picture right here, and then here's the other one where we had 350 points and then 1,350 points for the other 5 fragments. So this one was considerably easier, but this one was the second one, right? Sometimes what they're also going to do is that they're going to put like the hardest one or the easiest one first, and then they're going to catch you off guard with like a really hard one after. So if you were using the first one as an example of what was going to come, then again, this is going to hurt, right? Because you're not ready for this amount of points. So what I did is I broke this down on a per day basis for the first 5 days of the first Dungeon Divers event, which I'm going to say is relatively easy. That's about 420 points for that Dungeon Divers event per day. This one right here, however, is 60% harder than the first one, all right? So we need about almost 700 points per day to hit that last milestone. If we take the Elagaeus, however, this one right here is obviously much easier, but the one before, the first one, or the hardest one for Elagaeus, was about also 600 points per day. Still less than the one we have from Iron Brago. It might not seem like much, an extra 100 points in a day, but when you calculate the amount of free energy you have in that day or per day for those 7 days, you end up realizing that it's not exactly free to play anymore. It tends to be a little bit too tight on what you can afford to do with everything that they give us, because it's not the only thing you need to do. You also need to do your sort of like 7 battles in the campaign, or perhaps 3 battles against bosses for your daily quests and whatnot. You have to farm certain dungeons. That's usually not a problem. So like, even though everything is counting towards your Dungeon Divers event, like farming food is usually not necessarily the best thing. And if you end up doing too much of the champion training tournament here at the bottom, because let's say you're not focusing on some of these 2 dungeons, it's going to be even longer, right, for you to get there. So again, be cautious with this, but here's what I've decided to do in light of this, and part of it also has to do with me preparing in advance, but also sort of like not gambling on what is to come. Rather, what can I do, what can I achieve sort of like in real life time. So what I did is, for the champion training event, I went all the way to the 10,000 milestone fragments. All right, so this gave me a buffer of an extra 10 fragments that I otherwise did not put in my free-to-play plan. I said you guys would only get the first 2 for 10, but here I am sitting on 20 instead. So what I can do now is, let's say, skip a part of this Dungeon Divers event, right? So if I would do that, that would drop me down and I would still have my 100 fragments. Of course, that also means that I need to work a little bit more on this champion training tournament, which is to come, which we also do not know the values. All right, so that is what I want to caution you guys. But here's also a quick overview of the events for Pixnial. These are rare champions, but you can look at them the same way, all right? We have 1,500 points and 3,850 points. Not that far off from 4,775 points. So in a sense, it is not drastically harder. It is just different because they keep switching it up. So if you're not ready for this and you counted on my plan, I want to warn you. My plan is only as good as the information I have on that day. When I get new values on the second day or the next day, whatever, it is going to change. It is going to change on what you decide to do. So what I always suggest you do is if you can push on an event where you find you have the resources, you got the energy to do it anyway, just in case something like this happens and then you can't exactly afford to do this part, because this, I'm going to say now, is not easy or accessible fragments. These here now might be a little bit more accessible, and you'll most likely have to do those as well. Okay, so that is going to be it. A quick sort of analysis on what I've noticed on this event, because yeah, it is harder, right? It is flat out harder than the previous ones. It is not over the top harder, but they do every now and then increase difficulty a little bit, and it keeps going up and it keeps going up and it keeps going up until I'm going to reach a point where I'm going to say this might not exactly be free to play friendly anymore. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.